Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Let
We
me take
can
this
hear you loud
opportunity.
and clear.
Oh, thank you. Now I have the confidence that I have people listening. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the ZNCC Friday Business Agenda. This is a platform to engage on relevant issues to business. It helps to bring out information, share information and ideas that helps members to navigate the business and the regulatory environment. And my name is Kudama Tare. I am the ZNCC National and Regional Manager. I will be chairing this particular session of the Friday Business Agenda. As you're aware, colleagues, there has been so much talk about data protection in our engagements with members. Some weren't aware, others were aware, but were not sure of how it affects them, while others have complied. The regulations are there. For the implementation and the monitoring as well is none other than the Post and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, POTRAZ. And we are delighted to have them on this platform as part of this awareness program. And they will be telling us more about these regulations. So as participants, you will have an opportunity to seek clarification towards the end of the presentations. And I hope this is going to be a fruitful discussion that will help us in so many ways. And to help us to go through or to make a presentation from POTRAZ is the Deputy Director for Advocacy and Compliance, Mr. Zvichanzi Mugota. A special welcome to you, Mr. Mugota. We are really looking forward to the engagements, to the interactions, which I believe will be valuable to our members. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take note when he is presenting that you will have the opportunity to ask questions. And also, if you could also make use of the platform, the messaging platform, so that we can receive some of the questions through that platform. Yes, Mr. Mugota, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Oh, madam, sorry about that. Sorry about that, ma'am.
It happens all the time, don't worry.
Yeah. Yes, let me give you the opportunity to take over the platform so that we can hear more from you and we can learn more from you, and then we'll have an opportunity to interact after you have made a presentation. Is that okay?
That is okay. Thank you, sir.
I hand over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe if the host could allow me to share my screen.
Okay.
But anyways, whilst we're working on that, thank you very much, ZNCC and Mr. Matare. As you have heard, my name is Zvichanzi Mugota. I'm Deputy Director for Data Protection at POTRAZ. And one of the reasons why I was laughing when Kuda said Mr. Mugota is going to make a presentation, is that this is one of the things that we speak of in data protection, that people's personal data, which is the information which identifies a person, or which that which identifies you as a person. So you see, when Kuda read my name, which sounds quite masculine, he automatically made the conclusion that I am a man, but I am a woman. And this being Africa, people will have certain preconceived ideas about a man and about a woman. And sometimes that can lead to some sort of discrimination, which is why we need to protect people's data. But that is on a social level. On a business level, imagine if somebody has access to your name, they know that your name is Shishanzi Mugota, they know your date of birth, your place of birth, perhaps they even know your banking details. That could result in somebody impersonating you and stealing your money from the bank. That could also result in somebody scamming people in your name, even if they have your picture um, and your phone number. Even worse, they can really go about scamming people. We have been searched with issues in the last couple of weeks. It seems to be on the rise, where people are pretending to be one person or the other and calling the people or all your contacts and saying that they are in a space of bother. Could you please send them $200 or $100 or any amount that you have, because they are stuck somewhere. And it has been happening that people have been sending money to their friend whom they think is distressed, and yet they're cyber criminals that would have hijacked their phones or their WhatsApps and the like. And that is an issue on data protection. Or if you have made some transactions online, you start to ask yourself, how safe is my account? How safe is my business? Or those days when you have received messages, I don't know if you have received messages to say so and so, or there has been a signing in attempt on your Gmail account from India. And you are sitting in your office in Harare and you're realizing, I didn't go to India. And you're asked to confirm if it was you or if it was not you. And then you wonder, why is somebody in India trying to get access to my account? The issue is they're trying to get access to your Gmail because they want your personal data. Right. Another issue, post things on our phones, on our socials, and we are all fascinated by how intelligent our our phones are. But the question is that we never bothered to ask where all that type of information is going. And that is, we need this issue of data protection. That is why we enacted this data protection law, as well as its regulations. And in terms of the Cyber and Data Protection Act, POTRAZ is the Data Protection Authority of Zimbabwe. So yes, we've got our telecoms and postal mandate, regulatory mandate, but we also have a data protection mandate. And data protection is not limited to the postal sector or to the telecom sector. It is for the whole of Zimbabwe, because you and me are people, and we all have natural that personal data which must be protected. Also, by way of introduction, personal data is that information which identifies you as a natural person. So things like your name, your date of birth, your ID number, sometimes your gender, your race, your biometrics such as your iris, your blood type, your fingerprints. Also things such as your employment history, your educational history, all that information which put together will help somebody to identify you, or your pictures, your current location, where you have been, all that information is your personal data. So why we need to protect that? We need to protect that because it is strongly linked to your privacy and your dignity. Imagine people who have no business knowing what you do at your house behind your closed doors, or whom you speak to, what you speak about. If your private information is let out in the public domain, that could really impact your dignity. That could also be a major violation on your privacy. So I hope we are now together as to why we need this issue of data protection. And we also need to know that data protection is something that we have enacted in Zimbabwe in 2021, but it is something that has been around. And in the world, data protection issues started as early as 1948, when there was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which speaks about everyone having the right to privacy and to protection of their dignity. It then became a bigger movement, this issue of data protection, in the late 90s, where we saw the OECD coming up with data protection frameworks. The European Union has also come up with the general regulations of data protection. They enacted those in 2018. They've also set up protection authority. The same thing has also been happening in the African continent, where we have got what we call the African Union's Convention on Cyber and Data Protection, which is known as the Malabo Convention, which was enacted in 2014. We also have the SADC Model Law on Data Protection in 2012, and we only set up or enacted the Cyber Data Protection Act in Zimbabwe in 2021. So it is something that is happening in isolation and in Zimbabwe. Also, I told you that POTRAZ was the Data Protection Authority of Zimbabwe, but other countries also have good data protection authorities. Like I told you, the European Union has got the Data Protection Board. The UK has got the Office of the Information Regulator. Commissioner. In South Africa, they also have a data protection authority, which is the information regulator, which was set up in 2014. We also have data protection authorities in Zambia, in Malawi, in Mauritius, in Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, just to mention a few. On the African continent, we've got 29 data protection authorities, and in SADC, we have 9 data protection authorities on these issues to do with data protection. So I just thought I'd just share this information by way of introduction to say, what is data protection, and is it something that is unique to Zimbabwe or something that is new here? And the answer is no. So allow me to then move into my presentation for this morning. And I'm here to unpack the laws and what it means for you as a business, and what you are expected to comply with, and what the penalties for non-compliance would be, and to offer any support that we can give you as businesses to comply with the law, and also make the best of this issues to do with data protection. So I'm going to give an overview of Statutory Instrument 155 of 2024, which speaks on the obligations of data controllers and the role of the data protection officers. And I'm sure by the end of this, we would have answered the issues that we might have, and I'll also answer questions that you might have. So my presentation, I'm going to look at the key provisions of the statutory instrument and the obligations of data controllers, and we're going to speak about the critical, the data protection officer, which we call the DPO. We're going to look at data breach management and any penalties for non-compliance. So the first issue is there's a creature called a data controller, and the data controller is defined in terms of Section 3 of the Cyber Data Protection Act, as read with Section 4 of SI 155, as any person who makes a decision about the processing of data, and that person should apply for a license. So this person, a data controller, can be a natural or a legal person. So they could be a business, they could be an organization, they could be a school, they could be a church, they could be anyone really who's making a decision about processing data. And data processing includes deciding what information do you want. So if you're a business and you're saying, we need to know who our customers are, that KYC decision is a form of processing. If you are going to market a product and you say, we need to know our customers' phone numbers, so we need to collect their phone numbers so that we can communicate with them. That process of collecting that information, those phone numbers, is a form of data processing. Maybe you decide, I need to have a database of my suppliers and my customers, and I need to write their names and their contact details. That is a form of data processing. So data processing includes collecting information, deciding whom to collect information, processing, sharing, and retrieval of that data. If you, like, again, I'll use that example of marketing. If you're now going to be sending emails out to your customers, letting them know about a promotion, you are now using their personal data, their phone numbers or their email addresses. So you are using that data. If you're using data, it's a form of data processing. Also deciding whom to collect that information from is data processing. So as businesses, you are inherently data controllers. As business persons, you are also data controllers in terms of this law. We did say that data controllers are licensable and they have to have a license from the authority. And these are the categories of licenses and the costs of licensing. A data controller must apply for an annual data controlling license. If they continue to process information or to process personal data without a data controlling license, they are liable for a fine, or for though they've committed an offense, which I'll talk about later. But for the time being, we need to know that there are four tiers of data controlling license. The first one, we call it a tier 1 data controlling license. This is for small data controllers. If you're processing personal information of 50 people to 1,000, you are a tier 1 data controller and you must have a data controlling license. So in Zimbabwe, we classify this in terms of our data subjects. Data subjects are the natural persons, you and me. If a business is seeing me as a customer and they have my information, to that business, I am a data subject. If you're employing people and you've got their personal information, of which you do, you all are required by the law to have that information of your employees. Those employees are your data subjects. If you're also going to collect information about your suppliers, that at company X, our contact person is John, and John's phone number is this, and this is his email address, your supplier, John, in your eyes, is also a data subject. Or perhaps you are a company that has got a gate that is manned by security, and you require everyone who comes into your building to record their names and their phone numbers, or maybe their addresses in your book or in your visitors' books. Those visitors are your data subjects because you're collecting their personal information. So
If I may interrupt, Richanzi, my apologies. If you could put your presentation on slideshow.
it's not on slideshow?
It's not on slideshow.
From here it was.
Oh,
Not,
okay.
let me just, is it now?
No, no. So
No,
maybe
still.
you can continue. It's yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that, because on my end it's showing as a slideshow.
Oh, okay. All right.
But at least you can see that there's a table that I'm presenting, right?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay. So if
Sorry,
you've
if we
got
can, sorry if I can just come in. Your slides haven't been moving, so you've been talking.
right
but
now,
the
what
slides were
can
not
you see?
moving. How to register?
We're not there. I am
Okay, now we're seeing the tier.
categories of
The
data.
tier slide, yeah.
That is where I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So tier 1 data controller with 50 to 1,000 data subjects, you are required to pay $50 for you to have your license for the year, your annual data controlling license. Tier 2, if you've got information or data subjects, 1,001 to 100,000, that's tier 2. Your registration fees are $300. And the last tier that we have is tier 4. If you've got information of over 500,000 and above, your annual registration fees would be $2,500. So these fees are obvious. These fees are in US dollars, so we obviously accept the local equivalents. The annual registration fees. Remember, I said it is a criminal offense to process information, personal data, without a data controlling license. So now we are looking at how do you register for a data controlling license. You are supposed to have a data controlling license to apply for it within 6 months of promulgation of the regulations, and the regulations were promulgated on the 13th of September 2024. So everyone who's processing data must have had a license by the 12th of March 2025. If you do not have a license, please make sure you do have a license, because the law says that you should apply for that license. And when you apply for the license, a decision will be made about your license within 14 days from the date of application. And the decision could be either your license has been granted, it might be rejected, or more information might be requested for. We also have exemptions from licensing. In terms of Section 8 of our regulations, there are certain data controllers that are exempt from obtaining a data controlling licenses. And these are controllers who are using information for personal, family, or household affairs. Say we have a family WhatsApp group where we tell everybody today is the 15th of August, is Tapiwa's birthday. Let's all say happy birthday to Tapiwa. Maybe you even put a picture of Tapiwa. That is Tapiwa's personal information. But you are processing those for family use. You want everybody to say happy birthday to him. It becomes family or personal use. Or maybe Kuda is unwell and is in hospital, and we want to tell everybody that Kuda is unwell, he's suffering from a terrible flu and is in hospital, which is also his personal information, because we're sharing his medical information. That would be a form of processing, isn't it? But we're doing it for personal use. We want people to go and see him in hospital, or to send him good prayers and good wishes. it becomes exempt. We do not need to have a data controlling license for that. Maybe you have got an alumni group from your school where you're still processing personal information, sending pictures, or whatever it is that you're doing there, that would be personal use, so it would be exempt from licensing in that regard. Law enforcement is also exempt, so we're looking at the police, we're looking at the defense forces, state security
Sorry to interrupt again. Your slides are not moving, eh? We are still on the categories of data controlling license sections. Oh, yeah. All right.
Are we here?
Yeah, we are now there.
I'm sorry, I do not understand what is happening on that end.
Okay.
So I'll present from a non-slideshow view. Right, so we're talking about law enforcement. We're saying that if you are processing information for law enforcement, which is the police, the military, state security, the judiciary, you are exempt from licensing. Also, if you're processing information for personal information for journalistic, historical, or archival purposes, you do not need to have a data controlling license. And it also follows that if you do not need to have a data controlling license, you might not need to have a data protection officer. But on the issue of the data protection officer, we'll speak more about it when we get there. However, exemption from licensing does not mean exemption from application of the Cyber and Data Protection Act. The Cyber and Data Protection Act and its regulations still apply to these forms, these types of controllers who are exempt from processing personal information. So as data controllers who are operating in Zimbabwe, you have got certain duties in terms of the law, and your duties include a duty to notify the authority when you have had a data breach, or when you have appointed a data protection officer, or if your data protection officer has left, or any other notifications that you are required to make in terms of the law. You also have a duty to be accountable, to show that you are processing information in terms of the law and you are complying with the law. You also have a duty to make sure that your processing of personal information is secure and that you are keeping up with the standards that are required of you in terms of the law. You also have a duty to uphold the rights, to uphold and protect the rights of data subjects, and a duty of disclosure. So if a data subject asks you, where did you get my information, or whom are you sharing my data with, you have a duty to disclose that sort of information, how you are handling or how you are processing their personal data. So in terms of principles of data protection, you must uphold to ensure quality of data include making sure that you're processing information in a lawful, fair, and transparent manner. You limit the purpose for which you're going to use people's data. You're also going to minimize the amount of data that you're going to collect. You make sure that the data processing is accurate. You information for no longer than is necessary. You can't continue storing people's data for 20, 30 years. Perhaps if there's no legal obligation to say store it for up to this amount of time, you should store it for no longer than necessary. So a reasonable time, perhaps in your industry, after 1 year, is it really necessary for you to know who visited your premises on the 1st of January? Perhaps it's time to dispose of that data. You also have to make sure that your processing complies with the principle of integrity and confidentiality. You also need to be accountable for that data that you process. So these principles are there in terms of obligations of data controllers. In terms of the law, POTRAZ, as the Data Protection Authority, in terms of Section 11, is required to conduct sensitizations and awarenesses, which is what I'm doing this morning, to conduct trainings on data protection and to certify data protection officers. And whilst we are there on the issues of certification of data protection officers, whom we're going to talk about shortly, I just thought it would be necessary to tell you that we have a partnership with the Harare Institute of Technology for training of data protection officers, which is the second certification program in Sub-Saharan Africa after Ghana. And to date, we have run 16 data protection officer certification classes, and we've trained 856 data protection officers. We're starting classes on Monday, where we're going to train another 120. So before the end of the year, we would have trained over 1,000 data protection officers. And we've also been training foreign students from Malawi, from Eswatini, from the United States, and from Botswana, who have all come for this training on data protection. So I think we're doing a good job in that regard. Now, let us talk about this issue, which is the data protection officer, which data controllers are required to appoint in terms of the law. A data controller must appoint a data protection officer, who is a DPO, within 90 days from promulgation of the regulations, or within 90 days from the resignation of the incumbent. So like I said, the regulations were promulgated in September, 13 September 2024. So by the 12th of December 2024, all controllers should have appointed a data protection officer. So if you do not have a data protection officer today, you are actually non-compliant with the law and liable to certain fines and or penalties. And data controllers must notify the authority, which is POTRAZ, the Data Protection Authority, within 14 days of any changes to the details of the data protection officer. This DPO is something that is very important in the data protection context. So we need to have a look at the role of the data protection officer as we try to comply with the law. So a data protection officer is an individual who is appointed by the controller, who is charged with ensuring in an independent manner compliance with the obligations provided for in terms of the law. So this data protection officer makes sure that you as a business are compliant with the law in terms of data protection. Who is supposed to appoint a data protection officer? Data controllers are required to appoint a data protection officer where processing is carried out by a public body. So you see, this law is not just for the private sector, it also regulates public bodies, it regulates government ministries and departments and any sort of public bodies that you can think of. If you are a public body and you are processing information, you shall appoint a data protection officer. If a business's core activities consist of data processing operations, which require regular and systematic monitoring of data subjects. Like if you've got biometric access controls, you automatically need to appoint a data protection officer because you're regularly monitoring and processing their data. If you've got a CCTV in operation, you also have to appoint a data protection officer. If your core activities consist of processing sensitive data, things such as people's names, their date of birth, their addresses, their that information that we process for purposes of employment, that is sensitive data. And because we are businesses, we definitely process that personal information. So we shall have a data protection officer. Okay. Then we need to look at what qualifies one to be a data protection officer. In order for one to be qualified for appointment as a DPO, they must have expertise in national data protection laws and practices, including an in-depth understanding of the Cyber and Data Protection Act. They must also understand the business and how the business processes personal data. They must have an understanding of information technologies and data security. They must have a thorough knowledge of the organization and the business sector in which the organization operates in. They must have an ability to promote data protection culture within the organization. So we're saying that somebody who knows your business, somebody who understands the environment in which you work in, somebody who can promote culture change within an organization qualifies to be a data protection officer. But lastly, they must be in possession of a data protection certificate issued by the authority, and this is issued through our certification program, which I spoke about earlier. No other data protection certification makes one eligible to practice as a data protection officer in Zimbabwe, except taking that course which is offered by the authority in terms of the law. And the law goes further in section 13 of the regulations of SI 155 to say a data protection officer can also be somebody who has done any of those things, law, such as audit, information systems, data science, somebody who knows what to do as an organization, and who is in possession of that certificate that I spoke about. So in terms of section 14 of the regulations, a data protection officer's duties include advising the controller on the provisions of the Cyber and Data Protection Act, any regulations, guidelines, notices that are issued by the authority. They also monitor internal data protection compliance, and they conduct trainings in the organization on data protection. They raise awareness, and they do internal data protection compliance audits. They also deal with requests made by the data controller in terms of the Cyber and Data Protection Act, and they are the contact person for the data subjects when they come to your organization requiring issues or inquiries about how their data is being processed. So generally, that is what the data protection officer does. And the data protection officer is the DPO. In terms of section 16 of the regulations, as controllers, you are obliged to make sure that you have got organizational and technical measures to secure data. You need to make sure that your systems have got proper cybersecurity mechanisms in place to ensure availability, the confidentiality, and the integrity of those systems. And you also need to make sure that you've got systems to ensure restoration and recoverability of data. So cybersecurity or putting in security measures is no longer an option in terms of this law. An organization must make sure that it has got robust systems to ensure data security. In terms of Section 17 of those regulations, an organization must notify the Data Protection Authority within 24 hours of them experiencing a data breach. And if that data breach has got the potential to affect, or if it poses a great risk to the rights of the data subjects, say information about a data subject has gotten into the wrong hands and it is highly sensitive information such as their banking details, then that data subject must be notified within 72 hours of that breach. And the data controller must carry out an investigation on the breach to see what happened, what caused it, what was the impact, how can it be mitigated against, or how can we prevent such breaches in the future within 21 days. And they're supposed to submit that investigation report to the authority. And as data controllers, you must also keep a register of data breaches and any data incidences that you might suffer in terms of the law. So not having this register is against the law. In general, the SI 155 requires you as controllers to make sure that you are properly licensed and registered as controllers, that you are appointing a certified data protection officer, that you are adopting and implementing standards and guidelines that you're required to do so in terms of the law, and that you adopt appropriate security and organizational measures to ensure the security and the integrity and the availability of the data that you process. Lastly, in terms of the laws, there are penalties for non-compliance. So if there is a violation of the Cyber and Data Protection Act or the regulations, those violations attract penalties. And the penalties are currently criminal in nature, so you can pay a fine or fine and imprisonment, or both fine and imprisonment. Obviously, you'd say to yourselves, but we are companies or representatives of companies, so we will not get arrested. These penalties apply to the company itself and its representatives. So if you are a chief executive, you might find yourself in trouble with the law for non-compliance in your personal capacity as well. And in general, the fines are up to level 11 fine and or imprisonment of up to 7 years. So non-compliance with the Cyber and Data Protection Act can result in imprisonment of up to 7 years. Thank you very much. I have come to the end of my presentation. I can take questions. Thank you, Kuda.
Thank you very much. That was the Deputy Director for Advocacy and Compliance with POTRAZ, Richanzi Mugota, who gave us that presentation. And at this juncture, I would want us to put up our questions, or you can put up your hand. But let me say thank you so much to Richanzi for that presentation. We greatly appreciate it. I think you have heard it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. The processes, the consequences. hello, I lost my network for a moment there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Yes. So once again, thank you to Zuchanzi. And you have heard it for yourself. The issues to do with the data protection, the frameworks that are applying not only in Zimbabwe, but I think basically the rest of the world. You have also heard that data protection is all about collection, receiving, processing, retrieval of data. Those are all forms of things that you need to watch out for and be aware of, that it's all part of data processing. Then you have also had the issue of data controllers, the issue to do with who are the subjects when you're talking about data subjects, who are the subjects, and they also heard about the issues to do with the registrations and licensing fee. The registration process was quite emphasized as well. And I hope we all now have licenses. You also noted who is exempted and who is not exempted. One of the things that you highlighted in that presentation was the partnership with Harare Institute of Technology for data protection training, where you highlighted, I think you said over 800 data protection officers have been trained so far. And I think I was just thinking to myself of the whole country with thousands of businesses who process data, and we only have 800, especially if you take into consideration that you mentioned that even the government has to government offices also have to comply, and we only have 800 data protection officers the whole country. I think I'm wondering about the level of compliance there. So maybe you may clarify or just hint to us the level of compliance that we have so far, especially when I look at the number of data protection officers that have been trained. I think another issue that I would also ask if it could be addressed is the issue of having one institution, another Institute of Technology, being the only accredited institution for data protection officers training. Why can't we have more institutions accredited so that if I'm in Masvingo, if I'm in Bulawayo, or if I'm in Mutare, I can deal with institutions that are domiciled within that vicinity, as opposed to having to travel either to Harare or bringing people from Heat to Bulawayo so that they can they can train data protection officers. I think maybe if you can clarify on that issue. But ladies and gentlemen, I think the floor is open. We would welcome questions, would welcome comments as we seek clarification and as we pursue compliance towards data protection regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuda. On the issue of level of compliance, so these regulations came into being in September of last year, and we have trained over 800 data protection officers. Yes, whilst it's not much, but in the space of less than a year, I think we have done quite some work. Because this issue is still new, we are building up the critical mass on that. But you must also understand that a data protection officer can work as a consultant. So you can actually outsource your data protection officer services. So if we've trained 800 data protection officers, those data protection officers can offer their services to different entities. There are people who offer data protection as a service to different entities. So you might see, we might have one DPO who is servicing 5, 6, 7 different entities, whilst others might also be in-house. So I need to hasten to say that it's starting, but the picture will not be the same this time next year. And also, we haven't been, we're not yet penalizing people for non-compliance with the law, because we're still trying to set up the framework and raise the awarenesses, which is why we're having this meeting. But we are starting where we are. In Q4, we will be doing compliance checks and assessments, and those who are found wanting might find themselves being taken to court. And we're also working on our administrative fines so that we can fine non-compliant entities ourselves without necessarily going to court, you know, like what Zimra and Emma does. And this, again, is also in line with international best practices, where data protection authorities fine data controllers for non-compliance with the law. So I'm sure when those enforcement mechanisms come into place, or when 1 or 2 people have been prosecuted, the level of compliance will certainly rise. But as an authority, we are more interested in raising awareness and for people to understand what data protection is and that it is good for them. And then those who are non-compliant, obviously, will look for ways to bring them into the fold. So we are starting. It will not be the same by this time next year, or even 5 years' time, to be a totally different issue. On the issue of training institutions, yes, we have been working with the Harare Institute of Technology, but in July, we also collaborated with the National University of Science and Technology, NAST, and we also held training sessions there in Bulawayo. The partnerships take time to develop, but we had to start. And we have started with the Harare Institute of Technology. NAST is also now on board, and I'm sure in the days to come, you will see different institutions also coming on board. So I hope I've answered you, Kuda, and everybody else.
Thank you. Thank you. I think well answered. I've got something in the comment section there where can you kindly ask Zwichanzi to share the presentation later so that we are able to refer back to seeing that we are not able to view the slides at the moment. I've also had somebody who has requested if they can have the presentation that you have made, if we can then share with them. I don't know if that is okay with you. And then the other thing that I just wanted to ask is, what is the cost of training per data protection officer? Is that something that you have the figures on? I think it would also help just to have an idea. Ladies and gentlemen, you are free to ask questions. Please feel free. I don't see any hand up or any other questions in the comment section. Oh, there's one here. Thank you, Zwichanzi. What's the duration of the DPO class from commencement of class? What's the duration of the DPO class from commencement of class? That's a question that has come in the comment section.
Okay, thank you again. So the DPO training is 14 days. of classes, followed by a certification exam at the end. So you will learn and be certified within 14 days. And then the cost of the DPO training is $1,280, including lunch and teas and training materials and the exam. That is the fee. It's payable in local currency.
Thank you, Shichanzi. Are there any other questions? There is
Yes,
a
I had my
comment
hand
there
up.
from... Okay. Yes, Gugu, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Kuda. Thank you so much. And thanks, Shichanzi, for the presentation. I'll start with the 1,360. I think it's quite steep, especially for small to medium enterprises. And is that something that POTRAZ can look at in terms of just making the course affordable? That's my first comment. But the question I really wanted to ask was, we are in the, so my organization is called AdConnect Global Solutions. We are a business process outsourcing entity. And one of the things that we do is we do get contracts, for example, for things like your customer satisfaction surveys, where we then get access to our clients' data to conduct that customer satisfaction survey. I just wanted to find out from POTRAZ how they view that data. So we have access to the data. Maybe it's a month, 2 weeks, depending on how long the exercise takes. We do the assignment, we produce a report, and that data is no longer available to us. How do you treat those instances?
Okay, thank you, Guguletu. I think we also have another hand from Tinashe Kujoka. Please go ahead and take the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Kuda. My question is around the entry requirements for training as a data protection officer. So I was looking at the HIT website, where they specify that applicants must hold at least a first degree in any relevant field. And for special entry, the applicant must hold at least 5 O-levels, including English language, plus at least 2 A-level passes, or a diploma with at least 2 years experience in a relevant field. So I was looking at the nature of our economy, which is highly informalized, with a lot of small businesses that actually process data. And once we make it difficult for everyone to train as a DPO, it means the few that get trained will be costly or expensive for these small businesses, because they will say, because I'm highly qualified, I have a degree. So like for myself, if I've got a small organization, I might not be able to hire a DPO or appoint one, because they may come in with high expectations in terms of salary or benefits. So that's why I'm questioning the entry requirements. Why not just say anyone with 5 O-levels can train as a DPO? I don't think that this certification is that difficult. It might require someone to have a degree. Why not open it up so that we can have a lot of companies complying? They can send in their people to train we've got just 5 O-levels, and then they become compliant. So my question is, why are we insisting on these high entry requirements? Thank you.
Thank you, Tinashe. Thank you, Guguletu. I think those are the questions that have been put across. Whilst you are preparing to respond to that, there is something that has come again in the message section. The presentation was eloquently presented and in a clear sequence. That's a compliment coming there from Kizito Chitauro. Thank you again for these kind comments. We also have another question, or is it from Tinashe Kujoka? I'm not sure whether it's the same one that he is
Yeah,
just.
it's the
It's
same one that I asked. Yes.
Okay. No, that's fine. So there you have it, Chanzi. I think the issue to do with the cost of doing business here, I think that's basically what's being posed here. So can I hand over to you to respond, whilst others, if you still have questions, please prepare so that once we have had a response from Chanzi, we can move on to the next round of questions.
Okay. Thank you for the questions and also for the compliment. So the issue of the DPO training fee is a statutory fee. We as POTRAZ cannot control it because it is set by statute. However, we are cognizant of the fact that people say the figure is too high. But this is how you can be helped. Remember, we said that a DPO is a service, and there's nothing that stops businesses from having a shared service. So in this regard, at ZNCC level, you can provide that service for your members. And obviously, if it is a shared service, it will have shared, it will definitely bring the cost down. So instead of every small business going out to get its own data protection officer, you might simply come together at your association levels and have DPOs at that level. So it is one of the mechanisms that is there to ensure that there is higher compliance. And also, you can come to us and we can even help you to structure these things to help to bring down those costs. As for the requirements as to why should we have somebody with a degree, that's why we've got the special entry which says you need to have at least 2 A levels. And the reason is that the course is not particularly simple. You need to have some form of education, as it were, or prior knowledge, as it were, for you to pass the certification. So that is the reason, really, to say 5 O levels might not cut it, maybe 2 A levels. You would still do well. And Zimbabweans, we like to go to school, and I'm sure in every organization there would be somebody with at least 2 A levels. I think those were the main themes running through the questions that I got.
All right. No, thank you, Zichanzi. I think I'll take the last round of question.
You didn't answer my question.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. Yes, from Guguletu. I think there's still aspects of the question that still needs to be addressed.
On the issue of the customer satisfaction surveys, and you have access to that personal data. When you have access to that data, you count that as part of your data subjects. The fact that you give it back and you do not have access to it would make it difficult, really, isn't it, for you to then say which tier are you? So you would have to average it out and say over a period of 12 months, how much data do we have access to? And you can then identify your appropriate tier for registration. I hope that answers you, Guguletu.
Not quite, but I'm sure that you'll share your details, and maybe it's a conversation that we can have so that you assist us with that process.
Yes, we're ready to do that.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? There is one from Baldwin Tauya. Again, is the class also on a rolling basis, or there are intakes with which we need to abide to? That's a question from Baldwin Tauya. And are there any other questions? Because I think if we don't have any other questions, I think this is the last round of questions that I am taking. Are there any other questions? I see there is something that has come again in the messages. Can an individual be a DPO for multiple companies? I think this was addressed, but yes, that's a question that has come from Edgar. Can an individual be a DPO for multiple companies? And please, can Zichanzi share your details? Can Sichanzi share your details? I think people would want to contact you, and I hope that does not breach the data protection regulations. So those are the comments, or those are the questions that have come through. Is there any other before we close? Again from Baldwin, can we also upgrade the tires as the data handling grows? That's a question that has come in again for you, Richanzi. Can we also upgrade the tires as the data handling grows? That's a question that has come in. And also, please, Gugu, if you are able to share the presentation, you can give us your presentation, and then we can share with the colleagues who are participating on this platform, if that's okay. I hand over to you, Richanzi.
Thank you once again. Yes, an individual who's a DPO can offer their services to multiple entities. And then on the issue of the class, we offer it on a rolling basis. I will also share with ZNCC our details as well as the application procedures for the course, so that those who want to join can also apply. Yes, I will share my presentation and my details so that those who want to get in touch with us can also do that. And I also need to allay people's skepticism. The DPO certification is a once-off certification. So you're not required to come every year and pay another 1,200. I hope that will also put things into perspective. And as POTRAZ, we are available to assist you or answer any questions that you might have on issues of data protection. We are also available. I have to put a small disclaimer, our schedule permitting, because it is quite hectic for us as we are still starting this issue of data protection. Everyone wants us to come and make a presentation to them, but we are also available to do that, but we do that for a small fee. It's NCC, we do that for free, but if you were to come to your organization, we charge a very small fee. So do not be afraid to invite us and we'll come. I yield back to you, Kuda. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Richanzi. You've heard it for yourself. For ZNCC, it's free, but if you are doing it for yourself, there is a small fee. So I think you can see why it's important to belong to an association like ZNCC. This is some of the information that you get, and you are able to get details of how to navigate the regulatory environment and spur your business growth. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session for this Friday, and I would want to, at this juncture, to give a very big thank you to POTRAZ and specifically to Zichanzi Mugota for that brilliant, very succinct presentation. We really appreciate it as ZNCC. And may I also take this opportunity to thank you all, the participants who joined on this platform as we were discussing this very important issue, which will help you towards reaching compliance in terms of the data protection regulations. So thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.